Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 20 of CCFR Radio on the Air. I'm your host, Rod Giltaca. Thanks for joining me again. Today on the show, we've got some breaking news. You may have heard it, but you probably haven't, regarding the extending of the amnesty, which was set to expire at the end of October. Very interesting story there. A lot of moving parts, so you'll need this information. I also have a Supreme Court case, CCFR versus Canada update for you. The CCFR attended the CPC Outdoor Caucus Symposium a week ago as well, and some important information came to light, especially if you haven't heard of the 30 by 30 or 50 by 50 initiatives. These things should be the biggest news in Canada, and if you haven't heard of it, you should hear about it today. Also, National Range Day just happened. We got a couple of stories from that, and as well a heartwarming story about a pink shotgun that was donated to the CCFR. Can't wait to tell you that one. Anyway, all that and more. CCFR Radio starts right now.
CCFR Radio on the Air is brought to you by Wild TV Plus, the best hunting, fishing, and outdoor content available anywhere, anytime, on any device. Visit wildtvplus.ca.
All right, we are back, and we've got Miss Wilson here. I'm not doing the regular Wilson intro because we have to share some breaking news with you. We made a decision after we did the next two segments, right? We did this out of order. And I said, hey, we got to do the monologue together because we've got breaking news. So it may be breaking news to you by the time you're seeing it, or it might not be, but here it is. The federal Liberals have extended the amnesty. Now there's some details here. So why don't you take it from here, Ms. Wilson?
Yeah, that's right. You're going to have to wait for your Wilson. It's in the next segment. But yeah, so this is out of Public Safety Today, brand new announcement. In March 2026, the Supreme Court of Canada agreed to hear an appeal challenging the May 2020 prohibition of assault-style firearms. In light of this, the amnesty orders have been extended and set to expire 90 days following the date the Supreme Court of Canada renders its decision, which is expected next year. By extending the amnesty period, the government is providing certainty to individual owners and businesses that they will continue to be protected from criminal liability while the Supreme Court hears the appeal and renders a decision. So what that means is I think we've talked about the court schedule before, and we probably won't get a hearing until sometime maybe between January and April of 2027. So that you'll have the hearing. The Supreme Court will take some time to make a decision. And once it comes back with that decision, 90 days after that is when the amnesty will expire, assuming that, should we lose. If we win, well, it's, everything goes bananas. But so this could take us out well into next summer. So this is a big deal. You're no longer looking at that end date of the end of October. So very important, very good news. And I'm actually surprised the government did the right thing.
Yeah. So, well, a couple of points. If you've already turned in your guns, it's over. But I think, like I look at this, the government has saved us some time and some money for sure, because we're the ones that are taking the federal government to court and going to the Supreme Court of Canada, as well as some other parties that stuck in this fight with us the whole time. We're the only gun group, oddly enough. And while this is very reasonable for the government to do, I don't think they're doing it to help you or to help us. They're doing it because if you can imagine, we go to the Supreme Court, what if they lose? Well, they've lost, so in the situation where they've lost, they have taken firearms, confiscated firearms, made some payments to the people who they felt they were going to pay, right? They maybe even have prosecuted people, served search warrants on people that were non-compliant. All this mess only to lose at the Supreme Court. And then how do you unwind that? How do you create maybe that they would end up getting sued by a lot more people. So anyway, I think there was an element of self-preservation, though I will accept it. But I think all that to say, I think it was maybe a good thing that we kept fighting. And maybe this is a good example of why you keep fighting right to the bitter end.
Yeah, there's no maybe. In fact, our perseverance in sticking this out. And I mean, we've had discussions where we wondered, is it worth it? Do we keep going? But we promised gun owners we would do everything and we would fight all the way. And when we say something, we mean it. And it's paying off. So our tenacity is endless and we're going to just keep going.
Yeah. So again, at the end of the day, this is more than a 6-month delay. And if you hadn't handed your guns in yet, then you're going to hang on to them for another 6 months. I guess we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, could be a year. We'll
Yeah.
see.
So anyway, just wanted to share that news with you if you hadn't heard it. Anyway, when we come back, we're gonna we're gonna do all of our regularly scheduled programming. So stick with us. We are back, and via the internet, we've got Tracey Wilson of the CCFR. Wilson!
Wilson!
Well, sick again, hey?
Man, like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I had a man cold joke all set up for this, but I don't think it'd go over very well. But yes, Colin definitely gave me his cold. So yeah.
Well, that's no good.
No, it's no good. A nice time of year to be sick when it's 30 degrees out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, get some rest, get better, and because we got things to do.
Yeah, we sure do.
All right. Speaking of things to do, what a great segue, hey? I'm just nailing it today. Speaking of doing
Nailed
things, you did something. You went to the Outdoor Symposium, which is part of the Conservative Party of Canada Outdoor Caucus. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. So every year the Conservative Hunting Angling Caucus puts this on. Actually, I shouldn't say every year because last year we didn't have it, but that was during the election stuff, and we know how that went. But this is a great event, and it brings together people from the outdoor network all across. So you've got hunters, fishers, sport shooters, the BC salmon folks. Like there's all kinds of different people there, all under one roof, and we collaborate on a number of issues. So there's seminars during the day. All day on Sunday, we had seminars. I was lucky to go first. If you're not first, you're last. And we heard from people on a variety of different issues all day long. And then Sunday night, we had a really great social hosted by SEI Canada, our good friends over there. And it was at this guy's house here in Ottawa. He's got probably the largest collection of taxidermy I've ever seen. So it's like you're in a jungle. It was really fun. And then Monday, we were back up on the hill for a really interesting conversation about land access and 30 by 30. And then Monday night, we went to question period too. That was a lot of fun. I mean, not that they answer any questions there, but we went and watched. And then Monday night, we went to Stornoway Mansion, which is actually just a house, but that's Pierre Poilievre's official residence. We went there for the garden party. It was fabulous. All kinds of delicacies from all across Canada, all kinds of wild meat being served, live music, a great time full of MPs, senators, stakeholders, the whole shebang. So just an awesome time. Really grateful for the experience.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you did bring up something that I think is really important to our audience here, which is 30 by 30. And
Yes.
just in case people haven't heard about this, this means, and I'm gonna cut to the chase and make it really simple, 30% of Canada's land mass and 30% of Canada's waterways inaccessible to the common folk by 2030. And then on the heels of that, you have 50 by 50, meaning half of Canada's land mass and half of Canada's waterways inaccessible to, the serfs, right? To the common
Right.
people, meaning you can't go there. You stay in your cities or stay in areas that are okay for you. You cannot set foot in these areas. So the one analogy is if you've ever seen the original Hunger Games, the commoners were, corralled into these districts, and they could see the wilderness. They could see the resources and the animals and the water and whatever, but they could not set foot in there under, I don't know, I can't remember whether it was pain of death or what, right? But
Yeah, they had ships that would fly around and shoot them.
yeah, like this is real. They're literally saying, and Canada is 10 million square kilometers. So 5 million square kilometers by 2050 and 3 million kilometers by 2030 will be off limits to regular Canadians. So I don't know. This is a big deal. It's only 3.5 years away. And I think people need to pay attention to it.
Well, and I'll tell you what was really interesting. So, like, I'm not an expert on this stuff, right? I do gun stuff, but this really impacts our people. You ever want to go shoot on Crown land? If you're a hunter, even if you just want to go for a hike or ride your bike through the woods or something, this impacts everybody. And they paint it as a conservation effort. Well, I was under the roof with the best conservationists in the country, which are hunters and wilderness people. And this isn't about conserving. This is about preserving, meaning what are you saving it for? Who are you saving it for? If not for the people of Canada, then who's it for? So there was a lot of talk on that. It actually totally derailed the entire schedule that day. I was glad I went first because OFA and a couple of other groups ended up getting pushed to the end of the day because we got caught up on this 30 by 30 stuff. And then Monday morning was supposed to be a bear pit, which is like a, kind of a fast paced question period with MPs. And it actually got totally sidetracked. And we ended up doing a panel discussion on land access and 30 by 30. And we had lawyers there talking about some of the coalition stuff. And yeah, this is a major, major issue that is not covered enough. And I'm happy to go and learn about it. And that's why this outdoor symposium is incredibly important to the people who attend it, because it puts us under one roof, learning the same thing where we can work together to help stop some of this stuff.
Yeah. So though, if I'm going to leave everyone with one thing to remember, to understand, it's not even that you just can't hunt there. It's not even that there's more restrictive hunting there. It's not that you can't, build a mine or, take trees. You cannot go there. You cannot drive your vehicle on a forest access road and go up into, coming up 50%. You cannot fish 50% of the waterways in Canada. Like, this is serious business. Why can't I even go there? Anyway. All right.
Yeah.
All right. We're out of time for this segment. When we come back, we got a lot more. So stick with us. All right, we are back now. Just picking up on something that we left off. You attended the CPC Outdoor Caucus Outdoor Symposium with a number of different groups. You've kind of aligned the CCFR with a number of these on a couple of different issues, including the 30 by 30, 50 by 50. Don't worry, I'm not going to start ranting and raving about that again. But I just think it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard, because, as a citizen of Canada, being born here, you'd think you'd have access to Canada. But anyway, a number of these groups have decided that they're more powerful standing together than apart. And you are, on behalf of the CCFR, we're now part of this group.
Yeah, that's right. So on the Tuesday after the symposium, we all met in Ottawa, and it's called the Canadian Wildlife Conservation Partners. And it was founded about 2 years ago out of the symposium. And it was started off by SCI Canada, a Delta Waterfowl, the BC Wild Sheep Guys, and the Canadian Fur Institute. And now it encompasses, I think there's 35 individual organizations representing well over 1 million members. So the idea here is exactly that, is that individually, we've all got our strengths and our weaknesses and the things that we like to do. However, when we combine our efforts together and work together, we're far more powerful. People have been asking for this for a really long time. And actually now it's happening. And it's not just on the gun stuff. Like you said, it's on land access and other issues that affect the outdoors community, but we play a big role in all that stuff. So yeah, we had a huge meeting here in Ottawa, talked about some initiatives going forward, a massive lobby week next year, and some advocacy projects that we'll be following through with. So it's in its infancy, but there's some really good framework built up around this organization. And Canadian Wildlife Conservation Partners. Google it.
Yeah. So the CWCP, and they have a website and everything too. So
yes, they do. Yep.
Yeah. So you can check that out. All right. So National Range Day just happened, which is the first Saturday in June every year. And I guess just a little bit of commentary on it. The CCFR created National Range Day. It was created that everyone can use the logo and the trademarks and everything. We wanted it not to be a CCFR thing. It would be a thing for any organization or individual that wanted to celebrate positive gun culture in Canada. And we wanted to give it the first push so that it would take on a life of its own, and it has. So, so we're gonna talk a little bit about how it's being recognized by politicians and media and whatnot. Nobody's even asking them to do that anymore, which is great. You've got the flagship National Range Day event in Ottawa, or just outside of Ottawa, and I was even flipping burgers at my own Range Day this past weekend.
I saw that. I loved it. You've got a future if this doesn't work out.
Yep.
You can flip some burgers maybe.
It's not even a joke.
Not even joking. Yeah, so you're right. A National Range Day has just become organic now. And it's funny because I've been sick as a dog since National Range Day and just sort of lounging on the couch trying to recover. And I'm scrolling through social media and I'm seeing members of parliament, MLAs or MPPs in all over the country sharing that, oh, today I went to my local National Range Day event and it's fantastic. Like, we're not even asking them to do that anymore. They're just doing it. So a shout out to all the clubs who participated. And if you're a member of a club out there or wildlife organization or whatever, just check it out, nationalrangeday.ca. Get ready. You've got a full year now ahead of you to plan. But yeah, we had a fantastic event here just outside Ottawa. It was a bit gloomy, but we still had about 400 people come out to it. We had ice cream truck was there. I had a bouncy castle park. It is Ottawa. We need those things. A free kids range. Vortex Canada was here. It was fantastic. We just had a beautiful day out there and a huge, huge thank you to all the volunteers who showed up and gave it their all.
Yeah, it was awesome. National Range Day had about 40 events this year. I think
Mhm.
the very first year that we held it, there was 100 events. But
Yeah.
but I think one thing that is definitely happening is that clubs that continue to do it every year are getting good at it. So if you look
Yes.
at even the one at your range, it's very well organized. There's a ton of stuff going. A ton of people show up. It's becoming a tradition in the local community, right? Right. That's really
Yeah.
important. It's finally, building its own inertia. Now we wanted to push it a little bit harder this year ourselves, but we ended up getting sidetracked on a number of different projects. And if you watch the show, you know all about that. But one thing I did want to mention is back in 2023, when Marco Mendocino was the Minister of Public Safety, of course, he was a ridiculous character in Canadian politics, like totally unserious. Well,
Yes.
I don't know how much he had to do with it, but the having National Range Day doing so well, the Liberal government decided to use the levers of government and resources of government to declare National Day Against Firearm Violence and do it instead of the first Saturday of June every year, the first Friday of June every year, as just a petty way of trolling licensed gun owners.
Well, and you know what? It is a perfectly liberal thing to instead of actually doing something about gun violence, maybe reversing some of your soft on crime bail stuff or your lenient sentences for criminals. Instead of actually taking action to stop gun violence, what do? You create a day, like a childish way to poke your finger in the nose of gun owners. So I don't know. If I was a victim of gun violence, I'd be pretty upset about that. But yeah, I mean, for us, every single day is the National Day Against Gun Violence. We all want to say for Canada.
That's true. And I believe it's poke you in the eye, not in your nose. That's a different thing.
Well, whatever. They just want to poke you. They're angry at you.
They generally want to poke you.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're out of time. Thanks for the update, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right. We'll see you then.
All right, we are back. Now, I've only got you for about 4 minutes. So I want to share the most important thing with you first, which is CCFR Field Officer of the Month for May 2026, which is our great friend, Claude Robichaud from New Brunswick. So thank you, Claude, for all of your work. Really appreciate it. We couldn't do any of this stuff without our volunteers. And we've got something new for you, Claude. So get this. Typically, Field Officer of the Month gets a year's free subscription to Canadian Access to Firearms, otherwise known as CATF, donated every month by our great friend Donovan Dewis over there. They get a $100 promo code from the CCFR online store. Get you some CCFR swag, as they like to say. And of course, you get mentioned here on the television show and on the podcast. But something brand new, our great friend, fantastic friend, Josh from Dirty Leather, custom leather work, is giving a handmade custom leather belt to every Field Officer of the Month, I guess for the foreseeable future. We'll see how long Josh wants to do that, but it's personalized and they are beautiful, all handmade. Fantastic. So thank you, Josh from Dirty Leather, for doing that. And Claude, big surprise coming your way. So we'll get your belt size and all the rest of that stuff to Josh, and you'll end up getting that. So anyway, I just love the idea that businesses are donating things to reward our volunteers for donating their time to the CCFR. I guess that's how it all happens, right? So really fantastic. I do want to leave you with something important, and that is this amnesty extension. You know, Tracey and I talked about it in the monologue, right? The first segment. And is that the end of the assault style firearms prohibition, whatever? Of course it isn't. But a delay sometimes is as good as a win. You know, you fight for these things. And while this is a temporary reprieve, it means that you're in a position where you don't have to give up your guns. You don't have to pay out of your pocket to have them deactivated. You don't have to turn them in for destruction for free. All that is delayed for us to give ourselves a day to fight again, right? And that wouldn't have happened had we not gone all the way for 6 years. Over 6 years, we've been fighting this. It is a long, grueling fight, and it is frustrating and expensive. The reason we got this amnesty extension today, the reason we got it is because the CCFR never gave up. The government, pulled this OIC out. We're going to ban billions of dollars worth of property, with an OIC. And what is anybody going to do about it? We sued them, and we sued them in a huge way. We lost. We went back to the Court of Appeal. We lost again. And we fought these people in the Court of Public Opinion. We fought them 20 different ways this entire time for the last over 6 years. And then we lost at the Court of Appeal. We went to the Supreme Court. That took 6.5 years, and it cost $3 million. The CCFR raised that money from people like you. If it weren't for people like you being a member for $40 a year, what's that, less than $1 a week? Or donated or entered our contest, we wouldn't have that victory. It's a small victory, but it's something, and we just got to keep fighting. It shows there's a reason to keep fighting. Anyway, if you want to help the CCFR, you can do it at ccfr.ca. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care, and we will see you in the next one.